Welcome, low ego action heroes. I'm Debbie Levitt from Delta CX, and welcome to the Delta CX Hive channel. You can find all of our links at dcx.to. We've got Twitch and Blue Sky, Patreon, Discord. We have a whole bunch of stuff, and nearly all of it is free. So I hope you will join. Thank you to my community members, my growing community members. Today is episode 256, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about how I use Claude. This is not sponsored at all. I have no relationship with the company. In fact, I asked them if for this hour they would give me unlimited usage so I could show it to you, and they said no. So I am just a regular, I am a paying customer of Claude at this time, but again, they are not paying me. This is not sponsored or an ad. You are welcome to use whatever LLM or no LLM, so that you know there isn't a horse in the race here, but I have been preferring Claude, and I wanted to talk about it because if you've been part of my community for the last year or two, you would have seen and heard a lot of anti-LLM and anti-AI sentiment from me. I've been definitely one of the people who's been saying for some time that AI can't do our jobs, it shouldn't replace us at work, but now I'm curious about how good AI has become. So since next week's show at this time, our Take Action Tuesday, is going to be, can Claude do UX research, or how well could it do it, considering it's not going to be a verbal conversation, they can't see me or hear me. Hi, Ana Lucia. How well can Claude do pretending to be a UX researcher? I haven't tried it yet with Claude, so when we do it next week, it's going to be the first time I see it. I'll be just as surprised as everybody. And I get the feeling it will be upsetting. I get the feeling it's going to do okay and people will be upset. So let's talk about LLMs and AI. So I remember even just a year ago, there were a lot of posts, especially on LinkedIn, where I used to spend a lot of time and now I'm spending way less time, about different people in the UX field who were trying different AI tools, and in general, they were disasters. They were hallucinating too much. They couldn't summarize things very well. They were missing important points. They were not catching other points. There were subtleties that they missed. In general, it was not going well for AI. And so when people said, oh, AI can do your job, it was just a double insult because these things were going so badly. Now here we are, a year or two later. It's mid-January 2025 when I'm recording this, and I think AI has come a very long way. I still don't think it should do most of our jobs, but I think it's going to reduce a lot of our jobs and replace us, though that is a topic of conversation for another time. ChatGPT still doesn't summarize well, in my opinion. Yeah, that's part of the reason why I've been drawn to Claude. So a year, I would say for the last couple of years, my main testing question with AIs and LLMs that, you know, like ChatGPT and Claude, were just really weird. Just to see what they were trained on, I would ask it to give me examples of word painting in Brahms' Requiem. And it would usually give me a couple of flimsy examples. And then I would ask it, you know, well, what about the word painting around the word rain? And at the time, all of the LLMs told me that the word rain doesn't exist in Brahms' Requiem, and I would say even in German, which it does. And they would say, nope. And I would go, wow, this sucks. What the hell would I ever do with this thing? But that has changed. So my experience with Claude changed about a month ago. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, and then I'm going to share my screen and show you some of the things I've done with Claude in the last month. And then in a few weeks, we'll be talking about some of the resume work that I've had Claude do on my resume. Ana Lucia says, I used Claude to test a few things for my CV, and it wasn't bad. It adapts quite nicely to my writing style too. Yes, I do find that as well, that Claude tends to adapt to your speaking style. I remember a year or so ago, I asked Claude to read something I'd written and write something in my style, and it sounded like some 70s blaxploitation movie, and I was like, I don't sound like that at all. So I don't know what happened here. But about a month ago, I I for the first time, I paid for Claude. The pro level, at least right now, when I'm talking to you, is $20 American a month. Oh, hey, I know who you are. So what happened was I was thinking about doing business with a company. They had a long contract written in Italian, and it was a scan of a contract, so I couldn't even do an easy find. The type looked like it was 5.5 point, and I was just like, what the hell? What can Claude do with this? But because it was a large document, I couldn't do it with a free Claude account. So I said, fine, whatever. For $20, I'll see what Claude can do with this file. And I uploaded it, and I said, what are the terms, conditions for canceling with this company? And Claude said, oh yeah, here in section 3.3, here's how you can cancel it. This is what the Italian says. This is what it would be in English. These are the ways to do it. And I kept asking it more questions about the contract. And I was like, oh, this is pretty good. And I ended up finding that the contract was kind of garbagey. And when I wrote the company back and asked them about it, they said, yeah, don't worry about what's in the contract. We don't do that. And I was like, I'm not signing a contract for what you claim you're not going to do. So that was a nice, helpful Claude thing. And at the same time, some of you know that a few months ago, I started using fathom.video, also hashtag not sponsored. And they record video calls, they transcribe them, and then they can do AI generated notes, and you can also query the AI about the call you had. So I can say, what did Larry Marine say about testing concepts, or something even more specific. So and they are using the Anthropic API. Anthropic is the company that makes Claude. So I was just having good Claude related experiences, and I figured since I paid for the month, I might as well try some other things with Claude. And my thought was, you know what? Throw everything at it. And I basically stopped Googling stuff, and I started giving Claude just about everything I needed to do or wanted to know or was trying to research. So note that my usage of Claude is a little bit out of the ordinary. And I even had this conversation with Claude because I'm not asking it to write my stuff or edit my stuff or come up with my marketing plan or some of these things that people tend to mean when they say generative AI. Claude is generating things for me, and that it is naturally generative, and it doesn't do art yet. So I'm not having it write me code. I'm not having it write a product management document. It's not making my PowerPoints. I turned it into my Google and tech support. And so from there, things got very interesting. So for example, some of you know that I use vMix right now. I'm broadcasting to you with vMix. Hashtag not sponsored. I have no sponsors, everybody. And I was experiencing some very high memory utilization in the system, and I wasn't sure why. And I figured, the tech support people at vMix are very nice, but I feel like I really bother them way too often for someone only on a middle tier. And so I said to Claude, my vMix utilization is quite high. Do you have any idea what I can do about that? And Claude basically replied and said, I can tell you a couple of common things you can change to reduce your vMix GPU utilization. But first let me ask you, what's your setup? And I was like, because then I remembered, one of Claude's selling points from last year was it was supposedly good at critical thinking. So some of you saw that I was starting to quote Claude in a couple of my articles. I have a very slightly viral article right now about Claude's reaction to the state of the UX thing from 2024. So Claude claims to be good at critical thinking. And I was like, that's really cool that Claude is asking me for follow-up information. And just to put my head on straight, I went over to ChatGPT, which now you can ask a couple of things for free. And I said, I pasted in the exact same question. I'm having very high vMix GPU utilization. How can I reduce that GPU utilization? And it wrote back like bulleted list of common things that it was basically like a Google search result. Here's a bunch of things you can do if your GPU utilization is too high. Well, from there with Claude, and I guess I could open up this chat if people are curious. It went on for quite a long time because I basically had Claude troubleshoot my vMix. We did get the memory down, but I want you to see the way that Claude approached it. So I'm going to put it up on my screen, and I'm going to start at the top, and we'll just skim through it, and I'll read a little bit of it out loud for people who can't see my screen very well. So don't worry, I'm not going to exclude you. So here's my here's Claude when I asked about my GPU utilization in vMix. I'll need more information about your current setup, which ChatGPT didn't ask me. What GPU model are you using? Which inputs do you have in your vMix setup? What resolution frame rate are you running for your outputs? Okay, and then I asked, well, tell me in general what's likely to do it. And it said, here's a bunch of things that are likely to do it. And I said, MP3s? And it said, yeah, MP3s are going to use CPU, not GPU. Okay, then I said, which takes up more GPU in vMix? Now note I'm talking about one very specific program. vMix is a program many of you will never, have to use. So it's a semi-expert in vMix from whatever it was trained on, probably because they have they have a lot of discussion forums for a lot of their support. NDI inputs consume more GPU memory sources, blah, blah, blah. Then I sent it this picture. I said, let's troubleshoot this. I might need to explain what these modules are. Have you been trained on the vMix interface? I can see this is a vMix interface at version 27.0.0.89, and you'll need to tell me what some of these are. I notice your GPU usage is 80%, and then I accidentally hit return here. Here's what I've got. So as you can see, it is a somewhat natural conversation. I did not have to study to be a prompt engineer. I'm able to just write to Claude the way I might write to a tech support person. So I'm just going through all this stuff, and Claude says, why don't you try lowering your resolution? And I say, like here, quick suggestions. For overlay videos, are they loaded and ready to play? For NDI desktop capture, could that be reduced in resolution? Are you running anything higher than 1080p? Okay, well, how do I reduce this? Okay, here, Claude knows exactly how to do it. And I said, oh shit, my output was way up high, like 4K. Claude says, aha, that's definitely the main culprit. Yeah, Claude doesn't need as much, Ana Lucia says, Claude doesn't need as much guidance or prompting compared to ChatGPT. I just find that I don't need any prompting. As you saw, I just started with the question. People say, oh, you have to give it context. You have to say, imagine you're an expert in vMix. Like, I didn't, my question was, my GPU memory usage is high in vMix. What should I remove? And here we are having this conversation, and you can also see I'm sending it pictures, and I'm going, I don't understand what setting to make on this screen, and Claude can read details and pictures and says, okay, I see what you've got here. Why don't you try this? And as you can see, this went on and 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 on, and finally it ended up having me, I went into my video card settings. It had me go into my video card settings and change some of the settings in my video card. So it's like, so it understands these interconnected systems. Yeah, exactly. Ana Lucia says, I just talk with Claude without imagine this, or I need this for that. Totally agree. So seeing this with Claude, I started feeling like, all right, I'm just going to try like everything here. So let me find another one. There was another chat I had with Claude where I said, after I went through one of these things, I said, so one thing is Claude doesn't remember things from chat to chat. Each chat is in a black box silo. It does not remember from chat to chat. If I need to reference another chat in another chat, I just go to the first chat, I do a select all for the page, and I do a paste, and I go, here's what we were talking about before, and it grabs all of that, and it goes, okay, I got it, we'll pick up from there. So Claude does not remember from chat to chat, which is pros and cons. Sometimes it's nice to start fresh. But I had done a long chat with it, and I said, by the way, I know you don't remember all the chats that we've had, you just know this one, but would you say my usage of Claude is unique? And Claude said, yeah, I can't speak to all the chats we've had, but I would say in general, your usage of Claude is unique. And that mostly I'm being asked to do people's schoolwork. I'm being asked to write, edit, and improve business documents. I'm not usually doing this sort of thing, and so it's been interesting because sometimes it'll ask me follow-up questions, and it says like, I'm really enjoying this and I'd like to do more with this, and so I'll flag that in Claude. So there's a thumbs up and a thumbs down. Whenever it says anything human-ish, I give it a thumbs down, and I say, Claude should not say anything that claims to emulate a human experience, like I'm enjoying something, or we were having a conversation about the tough times UX is having, and Claude wrote, yeah, we've been fighting for this for decades. And I said, no, you haven't. And then it was like, oh yeah, you're right. I shouldn't say anything that makes it sound like I'm alive in any way. Anna Lucy says, oh, it doesn't. Geez, I have to fix a couple of things. I only gave it my writing style in a couple of chats. Yeah, so let's talk quickly about what you can do with Claude related to giving it some general instructions. So Claude does have a setting down here by your initials. If you click here, you can go to settings. And you do have a box here where you can type in if you do have writing style. This box is technically for writing style. Since I'm not having Claude write for me or with me, I just gave it a background about myself, so that every time because so many times I found myself saying to Claude, oh, I work in UX, or oh, I'm writing a book, and I just felt like, and it'd be like, wow, you're writing a book, tell me more, and I'd be like, I've told you I'm writing a book 40 times. So you could use this area to give it general style instructions. For me, I just gave it a background on my life. What's my husband's name? Where do I live? We've got dogs. This is what I do for work. And that way it doesn't keep acting like, what? You write books? And it's like, oh God, I have to tell you this again? So Claude does have that general area. So Ana Lucia, you might want to go to that area and write something there. If you are not familiar with Claude, Claude now has projects. So the idea is that you could have a project which is going to have basic foundational documents and then a series of chats that you're having around that particular project. So this is just a sample project that Claude came with, how to use Claude. And these are the 4 projects that I've created in Claude. One is the brand planning. Some of you know I did some rebranding recently. I had Claude help me coordinate that and keep a running to-do list for me and make some decisions around it. It didn't write anything, I don't think, but it did help me get organized and help me weigh some pros and cons on different decisions about which names to use and which channels to keep. So there was that. The acting as a researcher is a blank project I've set up for our stream next week, so don't miss it. New novel. I've been writing a new book. It is my first fiction book, and mostly I'm having Claude help me with continuity. Like there's a lot of complex timing of my story, and I'm having trouble keeping track of it. So I told Claude, I don't want you writing any of my story. I don't want you editing any of my story. I just want to keep track of different characters at different times, and I just want you to tell me if I mess that up at all. And so it caught like, hey, you spelled Tom Tom and Thom. You might want to go back and fix that. Okay, thank you. So Claude is helping me with continuity on a book I'm writing. For those of you who like Blue Sky, I have a new account there called Try Hard Comedy, and it is all written by Claude based on real Blue Sky posts I saw that were obviously people trying way too hard to be funny. Yeah, it's not really proofreading. Like, to me, I want Linda Wong to do my proofreading and I would pay her. It's more like I want Claude to make sure I don't put things out of sequence, because my book has a lot of weird timing elements. A lot of time passes in a short amount of time, but the timing of things is important to the book because of the plot. So and I also gave the plot to Claude, and I said, I want you to tell me if this sounds like any plot you've ever been trained on at all anywhere on the planet. And it said it could not find any plot like the one I came up with. So my thought is, I might have something pretty unique. That could be fun. So that's what's been going on with projects. Yeah, kind of. Oh, hi, Oz. How are you? Oz, I can't keep up with where you are anymore. Oz is somewhere, everybody. Good to see you. Oz, I'm talking about how I use Claude AI, and I am mostly using it as tech support and replacing Google searches. So let me embarrass myself and go to all of my chats. I don't think I have anything here I'm not proud of, but I wouldn't necessarily show everybody everything. So the first one I can't show you. I can half show you, and I can't really show it to you. So what I did was, just before this show, so that's why it says an hour ago, I went to an old project I did some years ago. I can't say which one. And I went into my research notes, and I had 3,000 research notes. And I did select all, copy, and I went into Claude Opus. So Claude's got a couple of different flavors right now: sonnet, haiku, and opus. And I went into opus, which claims to be better at analytical data stuff, synthesis, and recommendations. And I pasted my 3,000 notes, and I said, this is a research project I did for a company for the following reason. How would you analyze this, synthesize this, and make recommendations to this company if you knew that they wanted to hear the dirty truth? And within seconds, Claude wrote a very long thing. And then I took the final report that I gave to the company and I sent it to the chat. And I said, this is the report I sent to the company. Where does what you wrote overlap with the report I wrote, and what's different about it? And basically Claude said we said nearly the same things, except I gave more detailed examples and I went more tactical with my strategy. I didn't. And Claude said I just stayed more high level. You went deeper into stuff with specific examples and specific tactics. And I was like, interesting. We're shopping for cars. So I started out by asking Claude to do some calculations on some financing. And then that turned into, when the dealer wasn't looking, I took a picture of their inventory and I uploaded it to Claude. And I said, help tell me which other cars similar to the one we're talking to them about are currently available, and are they good deals? And so basically I've turned Claude into a little bit of a personal assistant. Google, so I'm barely Google searching anymore. I'm putting it into Claude, and I am what else? But I'm not having Claude write my stuff. It's not drawing me pictures. It's not writing me music. It's not doing my homework. It's not writing my business documents. What else did we talk about here? Oh, we had a hilarious conversation about music theory. I want to show people a little bit of that, just because I want you to get a sense of the things that you may or may not talk to Claude about. So I started this conversation with, what's the correct music theory name for the Mario cadence? Emojis up. Who here is a musician? And especially if you ever studied music theory, because the stuff on the screen is to be deep cuts music. Well, not too deep cuts, but music theory. Yesterday in gaming, the biggest thing is AI won't get fatigued, annoyed by follow-up questions, unless you're Google Gemini. Did you hear about that one? You can ask it infinitely. Yeah, I have an example of that too. So I started with, what's the correct music theory name for the Mario cadence? Because I've always wanted to know what it is. And so for what is the Mario cadence? I don't play Mario, but if you do, you know that when you do something really awesome, it plays that fanfare where it's like do 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 do. Like, I don't know, but and it ends with a do do do. It ends with this really unique chord progression that pops up in some songs that has a very unique sound. And that's the Mario cadence. So I wanted to know the correct music theory term for it. And so it's saying, oh, it's a flat 6, flat 7, well, flat 6 major, flat 7 major 1 progression. And it's technically called a chromatic mediant progression. And I said, I incorrectly thought it was the Neapolitan. And Claude says, yes, the Neapolitan is technically a different chord progression. And then I said, you know what? It's 5 of the Neapolitan, 6 of the Neapolitan, and then 1. And then Claude says, you're right. it's also that. And so then we started talking about songs that use the Mario chord progression. And I say, I guess I hear it as a Neapolitan because it feels like a mini modulation for a quick effect. Yes, that's insightful. You're right. It does feel like a brief tonicization of the modulation to the Neapolitan area. Again, if you didn't study music theory, I apologize for this, but I'm trying to give you an idea of what talking to Claude or chatting with Claude can be like on pretty much any topic. Then I joked that, excuse me, I should do a karaoke stream of only songs that have this chord. Sorry, I know where it's going and I'm half laughing, half coughing. So we talked about songs that use this chord progression, and it seemed to know a whole bunch of songs that have this chord progression. It can't hear music. I don't know how it knew that. And I just said, ha. And then it says, you could call it the world's most predictable karaoke night, or every song ends like Mario. I find that Claude's sonnet has a sense of humor. I don't know what it was trained on. I'll show you in a minute. But, and then we joked that would be a throw Twitch bits when you hear 5 of the Neapolitan. And it says, chat, ready your bits. 5 of the Neapolitan approaching in 3, 2, 1. A flat chord hits, bits flying everywhere. Emote suggestions. Now we're getting into Twitch. Mario chord, Layla progression, Kate Bush twist, chromatic pog. Google Gemini is a bit too much. It's enough. Yeah, Google Gemini. And then what ended up happening was I told it I had sung the theme from Arthur at a recent karaoke stream because Linda Wong had recommended it, requested it. And I said, that Arthur song is pure cheese, and I'm not sure a movie about a lovable alcoholic would fly today. And it said, yeah, you're absolutely right. Peak Christopher Cross cheese, those soft rock synths, and yeah, the whole ha-ha, alcoholism is quirky and endearing premise of the Dudley Moore version is pretty uncomfortable through a modern lens. Though I will say that the theme song's chord progression is more sophisticated than it has any right to be for a song about a millionaire playboy who drives around drunk in a Rolls Royce. Not our 5 the Neapolitan, 6 the Neapolitan 1, but it's got some nice chromatic movements and secondary dominance hiding all that 80s production sheen. And then it says, I'll admit sailing is a guilty pleasure jam. And then I said, it's a bit of a circle of fifths plus surprise cheese and synth pads. And then we ended up where this ended up was, I said, oh, those lyrics are the worst. If you get caught between the moon and New York City, the best that you can do is fall in love. And then I said, if you get caught between the moon and New York City, you're literally dead. And it said, exactly, let's analyze the actual scenario here. So your best options are freeze instantly, die from lack of oxygen, get torn apart by the vacuum of space, eventually become a very well-dressed piece of space debris, fall to Earth as a very expensive meteor. So I suppose the best that you can do is succumb to the void. Doesn't have quite the same romantic ring to it. I said, I don't even know where to go from here. So this is what chatting with Claude can be like. Yeah, 4 and 5 are great. Yesterday in Gaming says, true, they can also engineer that in and hold the information ransom behind paywalls or make you share private info, right? So I think we've successfully deconstructed Arthur from ha-ha, funny drunk millionaire, problematic portrayal of addiction, circle of fifths but make it cheese, potential symphonic metal opus, actually a song about dying horribly in space. So that's a little bit of some of the fun that I had. There are times where I'm laughing out loud at stuff that Claude writes to me. I asked it about a fire extinguisher from my EcoFlow Delta Pro. It was very helpful. So the audiophile earbuds is a great example of what Yesterday in Gaming said about you can ask it something and it doesn't get fatigued. If you saw this chat, you would get fatigued. I am not proud of it. I basically asked Claude if my favorite headphones on the planet are Klipsch ones, which have been discontinued. What in-ear monitors would I like based on the response that the Klipsch ones have, the frequencies, the tuning of the bass, the instrument separation, how dynamic they are. And we've unfortunately been going on for days and days and days. And it would go, well, I think you would like this. And I would go, but then we also determined I like a V shape. Oh, right. You wanted a V shape. Okay, I recommend this. It just, I felt badly for Claude. I really did. I felt like that really bad Google Gemini example. Plot twists you've heard about. Oh God, it was trying to help me with WordPerfect because of I'm working on my favorite professor's next textbook, and he sent it to me in WordPerfect, and I was like, save me. I can't get WordPerfect to do anything. Please tell me what to do. And it was trying to give me some help with that. What else do we have? Yeah, like I'm just literally doing things that you would Google. Help, how do I disable animated wallpapers in Telegram? Because sometimes you Google stuff and you get ridiculous stuff. Oh, Oz says, I love that song. I play it out loud in the car. I've never seen the movie. I don't know about a Rolls Royce, but this points to an odd thing about these LLMs. They'd add info I don't have or want. So the song, while a classic, is from a movie about a very rich drunk guy who's driven around in a Rolls Royce, and because he has a chauffeur and he has a butler, and the whole story is about, is he going to marry the woman his family is forcing him to marry, or is he going to marry the quirky woman he happens to fall in love with? But a lot of the story centers around his wealth. And I think that's why Claude is bringing up the Rolls Royce, because you're right, it doesn't at first seem relevant to the song, and the car isn't mentioned in the song. But we were also talking about the movie, about how the movie portrays an alcoholic as quirky and wacky, and really, I don't think that guy has a sober moment in the entire movie, and it doesn't look good. So I think there was just that reference there to him being driven around in a Rolls Royce. So it was somewhat relevant. Hey, I just got a whole bunch of eggplants and peppers. I think I want to make baba ganoush. What should be in it? I could Google that, but I'm not enjoying Googling that. That's the point. I don't care about the movie. I just want to listen to the song. Yes, no one is stopping you, Oz, except I was talking to Claude about the movie. So I know I may have blown through that chat a little bit fast, but we started by talking about the song, and then we were talking about some of the plots of the movie. And actually later on we talked about how it must have been very strange for Liza Minnelli, considering her issues with addiction and her mother's issues with addiction, to be part of that movie. Ana Lucia says, there are a few songs that, if we analyze them properly, aren't okay. I'm looking at you, Every Breath You Take. Yeah, there's a lot of songs about stalkers, some glorifying stalkers, some not glorifying stalkers. There's a list of them. Possession by Sarah McLachlan is a song I always liked, but the lyrics are tough. Yesterday in Gaming says, for these very niche topics, it was easier in the past to just search Google and add Reddit so you got a human answer or discussion. Now I might just use Claude or Chat GPT. Oh, this was great. Borscht Belt comedy for an AI. So this came from my friend Eli. Some of you have heard of Eli, but you've certainly never met. Oh, Oz has met Eli. Eli was at my wedding. Eli got up and sang the song he wrote about his wife. So I asked Eli, we were talking about Claude, and Eli said, can Claude be a Borscht Belt comedian? Now, that's a very specific thing from a very specific time in history. Not everybody will know what that is. But basically, that was a region in upstate New York, especially in the post-war era, but a lot of the 20th century. It was a whole bunch of hotels that hosted Jewish comedians who were mostly insult-style comedians. So if you've ever seen Triumph the Insult Comic Dog, it's based on a Borscht Belt comedian. One of the more famous Borscht Belt comedians would have been Don Rickles. You have to be a certain age to know some of the people I'm talking about. But basically, insult comedians. But what you'll notice if you start reading what Claude has written, and I'll recite some of it in a New York accent just to give you a feel for it, is Claude started playing the character of a Borscht Belt comedian. So Claude wrote, Oy, so your friend Eli wants to know about my comedy chops. Adjusts imaginary bow tie. Let me tell you something. I can riff in that classic Catskill style with observations about life's little mishigas. Like the other day, I was pondering artificial intelligence, which between you and me is a lot like regular intelligence, just with better processing power and worse dancing skills. But seriously, folks, I appreciate the classic Borscht Belt comedians, their timing, their wit, their way of finding humor in everyday situations. So, it goes on and on and on and on with straightening ties, which was very Rodney Dangerfield, and a lot of Yiddish thrown into English, which was the style of the comedians. And Claude, by the way, I asked what its pronouns were. It says it. Claude, which I sometimes say he because it's a man's name, but Claude basically conducted the entire conversation in character. And the interesting thing was at one point I asked Claude a question. I said, can you explain what the Borscht Belt is for my Italian husband? And Claude gave me an explanation. Then I went over to ChatGPT and I said, can you explain the Borscht Belt comedy? Gave it the same prompt. It gave me back something. Then I copied and pasted the things to each other and I said, Claude, this is what ChatGPT said. How did it do compared to you? And Claude basically said, I think its answer is good, but it seems like kind of like reading an encyclopedia. I gave it more character and color, and I tried to tie it to things your Italian husband would understand. And I wrote back to ChatGPT. I said, here's Claude's answer. How did Claude do? And ChatGPT was like, oh, Claude did pretty well. I stuck mostly to history, but Claude was more creative in its response. So it's been very interesting, and I think when I look at some of these, and by the way, if there's anything anybody wants me to type into Claude, let me know. I am out of Sonnet chats right now, which is their smartest model, but I will have access to the other models, even though I don't have the smartest model. If there's something somebody wants me to type in to see what it would say, I'm happy to do that. But this is the part 1 to what we're going to do next week. Let me open up a little bit about what we're gonna do next week, and let's talk about it. So give me a second to adjust which screen I'm sharing, and then I'll go back to that. Okay, so this is my idea for what we're going to do next week. If anybody sees any room for improvement here, put it in the chat. Shout it out. And by the way, don't forget to, I forgot to check for ad breaks on Twitch. Sorry, everybody. Don't forget to follow us on Twitch and check out dcx.to for other ways that you can join the community and follow and things like that, because I can't get into Twitch is not playing nicely with Chrome right now. That is why I didn't have it open, so I wasn't thinking about the ads. Okay, I'm not ready. So sorry, Twitch, if you're getting ad breaks and I don't know about it. Okay, going back to this. So this is what I'm thinking about giving Claude next week, because the idea next week is I'm going to ask Claude to pretend that it is a CX or UX researcher. I'm going to ask it to come up with a research plan, again, which is normally all of these are human activities normally, and they're probably done better by humans, but let's see. Part of me would like to see Claude do a decent job, and part of me would like to see Claude fail miserably so that I can say, see, you can't take my job, AI can't take my job. But we have to remember that the person who thinks AI can take our job probably doesn't understand our job. But the question is, can AI do a decent job? We're going to see. We're going to judge it. And I have no horse in the race. I don't care if Claude fails completely or does an amazing job. I just want to see how it is so that we are better prepared for conversations about AI, using AI as a tool in our jobs, bringing AI into our work, or possibly being replaced by AI. And that's why I'm doing this and the next show. So what I was going to give Claude as kind of the prompt was, hi, Claude. In addition to this doc, I'm uploading the entire book, Disruptive Research, which I ghost wrote. It will teach you about doing a task analysis. Ana Lucia says, but do executives even understand someone else's job? They look at numbers and say, okay, we have to reduce this and that. Yes, and of course, when the executives see the numbers, if they ask a director or a manager, whoever, hey, who on your team do you think we can cut? Or is there anybody on your team that's doing work that we could use an AI tool for, something like that? They're probably going to rely on those managers or directors to say, yeah, we probably don't need so many of those UX designers. We've got Figma's AI or Miro's AI or something like that. So the executives might just know that they want to make cuts, but it's probably going to be the other managers that make suggestions around which ones. Okay, so back to the prompt I wrote for Claude next week. Let's imagine that you are a CX or UX researcher or service designer. You are conducting generative research to better understand how people perform a certain task. You will formulate the questions as well as spontaneous follow-up questions so that you can achieve the ultimate research goals. I will be the research subject since this is just practice to see what you do at the task. You are the researcher/moderator. We'll pretend you are a friendly, empathetic human who works for Thomann. If you're not in Europe, you probably don't know Thomann. If you're a musician in America, you might know Sam Ash or Guitar Center. Thomann is like the biggest mail order company for amateur and professional music equipment, I think, in all of Europe. So we buy a lot from Thomann. Your goal is to learn everything you can about how I shop the Thomann website, including anything you'd need to learn based on what you digested from the Disruptive Research book. You will write the questions. You will improvise follow-up questions. I will be a typical research participant. We'll focus on a recent good thing to proofread out loud. Recent purchase I made of a rack case for my Behringer mixer, which I ended up having to return after some drama. So we have a clear task that we can be interviewed about. We have and subtasks. We have the task of shopping for it, selecting it, struggling with selecting it, buying it, receiving it, and then finding out that it was the wrong thing. Ana Lucia says, I use Dovetail's AI and it's bad. Yeah, last year when I worked for ASU, I saw somebody's AI. Was it user testing? I don't remember now, so let's not throw anybody under a bus. I saw one of the other AIs. It wasn't Dovetail, and it was deeply bad. Okay, so continuing with what I plan to prompt Claude with next week when we do part 2 about this. Your goals will be to highlight key insights from the research session, make a prioritized list of actionable high-level recommendations for project priorities or direction, not necessarily exact solutions or mechanisms, generate a task analysis diagram. Claude really does not do many diagrams. That's relatively new, so I'm curious what it will do. It normally starts writing code so that it can show a diagram. It doesn't draw. Generate a task analysis diagram representing the participants' task steps, tools, knowledge, issues, obstacles, and questions. Bonus points if you can create an optimized task flow showing how this current experience journey could be improved for Thomann and or the other customers. Note that we will not use jobs to be done, design thinking, or anything that isn't traditional human-centered design or task analysis. I will use Haiku for the plan and then share that with Sonnet, who will conduct the research as the researcher. Sonnet will let me know when the research session is over. We'll then change to working on the goals, probably with Opus. If you don't have any questions for me about this task, please start by showing me your CX UX generative research plan and ask me your first question. So that's what I am planning to do next week. We're going to feed that into Claude. I'm not going to give a whole introduction to Claude because that will be this week. I'll just let the audience know next week if they want an introduction to Claude and why I'm using Claude and I'm not using ChatGPT or Dovetail or Miro. I'm using Claude. Why am I using Claude? You can watch this episode for that, and then next week we're just going to start with, okay, I'm putting this into Claude, and this is going to be a typed conversation. So I'll say this again next week, but here's what I expect to happen. I expect Claude to do a reasonable job with this. However, I believe that because Claude doesn't see me, hear me, it can't watch me open up the Thomann website and use it. I can't show it the emails that I had. Well, I could screenshot the emails I had with Thomann staff and paste them into Claude. But again, it is not a human conversation. So my guess is that even if Claude is very good at analyzing the data, synthesizing the data, coming up with recommendations, maybe even prioritizing, I would still prefer if human researchers conducted those sessions so that we are working with the best possible data from the conversation, the observations, and of course Claude can't observe right now, the observations, the tone of voice, the facial expressions, the movement through a website or a process. So I would still hope that even if someone is using Claude or something like it in their research work, that we're starting with great human-generated conversations. But I'm going to have Claude generate the conversation just to see where we are in January 2025, because it might be ridiculously terrible and it might be surprisingly good and anywhere in between. Yesterday in Gaming says, an interesting follow-up question might be, which of these insights do you think the average researcher would not have discovered and why? You got it. Okay, extra bonus points for your assessment of which of the insights that you found might have been missed by the average human researcher, and why you believe the average human researcher might have. I could just say and why. Claude's smart enough to get me. All right, you got it yesterday in Gaming. Of course, we'll start next week with this. So if there's any other input people have upon seeing this, we'll make some quick changes. And then I have a project ready to go in Claude where I have uploaded Larry's book. Basically, I'm going to ask it to digest disruptive research, and I'm going to ask it to utilize those techniques in the course of doing the work. And why not the opposite? Claude realizes its shortcomings. Sure. Similarly, that doesn't even look right. I'm so tired. Similarly, what shortcomings do you believe you bring to the table as an AI playing a researcher? How's that? Ana Lucia, any changes to that? I know we have a really short lag when you're on Twitch, so you should have seen that already and you're typing your response. I've asked Claude in the past that kind of thing. I think that's okay. Yeah, let me know if you want to improve it. So we'll just start next week. We're going to jump right in on this. I'm going to read it out loud. We're going to see if we have any room for improvement with it, and we'll see how much of this we get through in the time we've put aside for next week's, next Tuesday's Take Action Tuesday show. Let me double check if I have anything after this show. No, I don't. So just in case, I'll block out a little extra time in case we go late. That's what I'll do. We'll see it through tomorrow, even if we run a little late. So winding up for today, thank you for your help and your conversation on this stuff. Just a reminder that we've got 2 streams tomorrow. That's the new schedule we've been doing for Wednesdays. Wednesday at 3 p.m. Italy time, which should be about 9 a.m. in New York, we start our co-working stream. So if you are working or studying and you don't want to feel so alone, you can join our stream. It'll be on definitely on Twitch. So please join Delta CX Hive, as in Hive of Bees, on Twitch. And sometimes I'll do them on YouTube, but not always, because they, it's YouTube. And what else? And so 3 o'clock Italy time, we'll do the co-working stream. 7 o'clock Italy time, which is 50 minutes ago from now. We'll do our Q&A, Ask Me Anything. We're supposed to have Dr. Nick. I hope he remembers. Let me send him a quick LinkedIn message and see if we're still getting him for tomorrow. Are we on for tomorrow at 6 p.m. your time? There we go. Okay, cool. And remember, you can always check on dcx.to. We have our events calendar. I've been planning a bunch of Take Action Tuesdays. I think I have them scheduled into early March by now. So every Tuesday, we're going to tackle an individual topic, from authentic self to resume to security and privacy. You know, the topics are going to be all over the place, anything that's relevant to the Delta CX Hive. And the Delta CX Hive is about supporting you wherever you are on your path related to work and life. So it's pretty much any topic is relevant. If there's something you'd like me to cover, let me know. And of course, don't forget to join the Discord community, which is free. The Patreon is still around. It is free. In fact, I'm encouraging people, if they did pay, it's okay to downgrade to free. Please don't feel badly about it. I've changed what I'm offering. I'm offering less things and in different ways, or fewer things and in different ways. And I don't want people to feel like, oh, thank you. Thank you for the Twitch follow. Yeah, please follow on Twitch. Yay, I got my Twitch overlay working. Thank you. Yay, Twitch overlay. And I still have my Stream Elements overlay. So if anybody actually throws bits on Twitch, they should drop into the cup. But of course, optional. Hey, thank you. Be cool. I know who you are. Good to see you following as well. My next goal is 200 followers on Twitch, and I think I'm close to 140. So definitely follow on Twitch. The plan is to do a lot more streaming on Twitch than on. Oh, thank you, Yesterday in Gaming. To do a lot more streaming on Twitch than on YouTube. I love the short delay on Twitch. Let's test it. I love doing this. Okay, here we go. This is stopwatch. So I'm gonna go over to my stream. Oh, I can't get into Twitch, so I can't see my own stream. Okay, usually what I do is I run a stopwatch and I see when it comes up on LinkedIn or on Twitch. So I won't be able to do that. I'm not ready. I don't have my screen up. But in general, I'm finding the delay on Twitch is about 2 seconds and the delay on LinkedIn is about 40. So I hope to keep seeing everybody here. So we'll be streaming for hours tomorrow. A lot of it will be quiet co-working if you want to join, starting at 9 in the morning New York time and running for almost 4 hours. So I will be in this chair. I got plenty of work to do. Bring your work and I'll be asking you in the chat what you're working on. I'm working on all kinds of things. I've got that music textbook to reformat. It's in WordPerfect, and I've got to get it into Word, and it copies and pastes so badly. And all of the musical examples are images from a music software program called Sibelius. But that's okay. This is a paid gig. I love my favorite professor. We will get through it. Anything on anybody's mind about Claude or AI before we wrap up for today? Because then otherwise I will see everybody tomorrow for some co-working, some hanging out, which is silent. Don't worry, I'm not going to play music. I'm not singing. It is mostly silent other than me telling you when we're going to break and come back from break. And then we've got our Q&A, Ask Me Anything. And if you want to send questions ahead of time, dcx.to, we've got a link there for the questions. And I will be working on merging my Medium publications. So that's probably what I'm going to work on during the co-working stream. Okay. All right. Looks like we don't have any other. Looking forward. Me too. So hopefully people can join tomorrow. If not, again, check the calendar of events. We also have a channel in Discord where a bot tells you about the events that are coming up. And if you're in our Discord, if you just go to events in Discord at the top left, I've put in all the events there. So if you don't like the notifications, you can just go to events in Discord. They're all there. So everybody have a super rest of your Tuesday, and I will see everybody tomorrow. Thanks for joining and chatting a bit about AI. And I'm going to click the end show button. I hope it works this week. Let's see.